So we're gonna be real for a minute because the paint color you are choosing for your home is completely ruining vibe. Color is not just a backdrop for your space. The amount of energy that gives off is so important, and the psychology behind it is also incredibly vital to understanding what color works in your space. So not only do you feel calm, but also feel at home and at peace. Now, I know in a previous video I had asked about making this video, and I'm so glad so many of you asked. Today we are going to be talking about the psychology of color and how that actually correlates to your space to make you feel good in it. Strap in because we're going to be doing a little bit of color theory, but I'm going to dumb it down to the easiest way possible so you can understand it, because trust me, color theory is a whole other masterclass that we could talk for hours about. So we're going to be going through today what colors work, what colors don't work, and how those colors are actually connected to psychology for how we feel in a space. You want rooms to feel majestic. You want rooms for people to feel comfortable in and also linger. There is a very specific reasoning why fast food restaurants have high saturated bright colors to make you want to leave. They do not want you to stay. That is the easiest representation of saturated versus desaturated colors when it comes to fast food and restaurants. One of them wants you to leave, one of them wants you to stay. A lot of people do not consider the mood that is influenced by color. It can make you feel a number of things. More importantly, the easiest representation of red is anger and rage. I don't know if you've ever been in a fully red room, but trust me, you're not only physically seeing red, you are mentally seeing red in terms of anger. As humans, we are wired emotionally to connect with certain details. Color is one of those really important factors that need to be considered in your space. Some colors can soothe, some colors can energize, and some can even inspire. For example, if you walk into a bright yellow kitchen, you are going to have a visceral reaction to how your body actually physically reacts compared to walking into an office that has a nice, soft, desaturated green. Color also holds so much memory, whether it be from your childhood or your adulthood. These colors will help dictate what your likes and dislikes are and your reactions to them in a space. So let's do a breakdown of the energy of how colors react in the space and how you can feel about them. We're going to start things off with very soft and very easy. These are the blues and greens. These are going to be your calming and restorative colors. They're perfect for bedrooms, bathrooms, and your office. It's statistically proven that blue and green will literally lower your heart rate. This is really great for rooms that you want to feel calm and collected in. Both also connect you to nature and are proven to reduce stress. So if you're ever wondering why I have a full color-drenched green or blue room, you know it's because I'm so stressed. This is the room I will go in to reduce all worries in the world. Doesn't always work, but you know, it will work for the time being while I'm being distracted. Once I go outside that room, the world is a dangerous place, people. Muted blues and sage greens also give a very sophisticated feel. So if you want that grown-up look, having these in a desaturated level versus saturated are going to give you a really chic contemporized look. There's also a level of safety that's connected with these colors. Physiologically and psychologically, we are connecting these to nature and calm things in nature, whether it be a forest or the ocean. Just being able to experience those for the color make a huge impact on you and your space. Now we're going to jump to the opposite side of the color spectrum. We're going to jump to reds and oranges. These are energizing and extremely stimulating. The only time I see these colors being appropriate is for commercial and creative spaces. So I'm talking about bars and restaurants. Using these in your home are going to stimulate you way too much physically and emotionally. There are studies done on these colors that also help raise an appetite. So if you think of orange and yellow, you usually think of fast food or some kind of a restaurant that uses those colors to help spark the appetite. I also want to give you a warning on these two colors, is that they should only be used in large application spaces. Because the energy of these are so intense, putting them in a small room can be extremely overwhelming and very overpowering. There's a reason why you will see so many gyms using red and orange. It is meant to spark not only the appetite, as I mentioned before, but your energy levels. I don't know how, because when I walk into a gym that sees all red or an all orange, I am completely turned off. I want that aesthetic, calming look when I'm working out. But when you look at those bodybuilders, they love that really intense masculine energy that comes from these bright colors. Yellow I'm gonna have in its own separate category from red and orange because it has a few different factors that are similar to it, but also very different. Yellow is meant to be uplifting and cheerful. Now, once again, it really ties back to not only sunshine, but your childhood memory of these colors. Some people have a good experience with them, some people have a negative one. I know a lot of people say that yellow is great for kitchens and breakfast nooks because it's bright and airy. In my opinion, it comes off a little bit too off-putting. If you do like yellow, I want you to use it in the most desaturated level. And when I mention that, I'm talking about like an off-white with a little bit of warmth. That's gonna give you that creaminess to a space that feels welcoming without it being overpowering. That saturated yellow is something I would typically avoid. As I mentioned, go for that off-white finish, but you can also use a more muted buttery finish if you want it to intensify the amount of yellow. When it comes to yellow specifically though, using it in geographical locations, we're also going to amplify or desaturate the amount of yellow. If you are facing east, west, or south, that yellow is going to be tripled the amount in terms of the saturation level versus having it in a north-facing room where you get even light throughout the day. It's going to give you that more neutral white finish. When it comes to neutrals, these are going to be your most versatile and your most grounding finishes to use throughout, and they're going to work in so many different applications. Beiges, taupes, and warm whites are going to be the backbone of any interior design style if you don't know where to start with color. These neutral finishes also help create a connection between room to room that feels natural and not forced. A really good tip when you're using neutrals like this is to pair them with natural finishes. This is going to be your foolproof pairing method when used with natural materials. The great thing about neutrals as well is if you are using them on that more desaturated level, bringing in pops of color, even though I hate that term, also allows you to bring in different elements that feel like they belong. Don't use a super saturated color to bring in that pop, but find the same undertone, whether it's warm or cool. And if you want to find out if it's a warm or cool undertone, put whatever that finish is besides a white piece of paper. If it looks blue, you have a cool undertone. If it pulls more yellow, you have a warm undertone. That is going to be your easiest and most foolproof method to understanding the undertones of different finishes and if they even work together. And of course, you all know me for the dark and moody interior, so I definitely need to talk about these desaturated, more moody tones, because this is going to give you that more cocooned room that feels more sophisticated. I'm talking about charcoal, black, really deep navy, or a dark green. These are going to give you that moody and intimate interior feel. I personally like these for bedrooms or libraries and open spaces, especially if you have a really large open concept. It can be challenging sometimes to make the space feel cozy and intimate. Those dark colors that give you that grounding sensation that feels like the walls and the ceiling close in visually. I know a lot of people are afraid of dark colors, but I want you to not fear them. A lot of people have been using dark colors for the longest time incorrectly. When it comes to using these in your space, there's a few rules to consider. One is going to be the amount of lighting you have in there, both natural and artificial. If you do not have enough light, of course, your space is going to feel small and confined. If you have enough lighting, whether ambient, task, or just overall glow, that's going to allow these really dark, moody colors to give you that cocooning feel that actually feels comfortable instead of daunting. So you're probably gonna ask how these colors can match to your home. I'm gonna break it down in 3 parts for you. Bedrooms is where you want that calming and restorative color to give you that low energy level to feel relaxed. Kitchens, you want that energized and warm, cozy feeling, which is great as long as you keep it as a desaturated level. Living rooms and bathrooms are the perfect opportunity to blend in those neutrals with a little bit of those dark and moody colors. This is going to give you that gentle accent to make an impact in a space so it feels cohesive for the rest of the color palette in your house. I want you to also consider the flow of how these rooms are connected to each other and how those rooms translate in terms of color and energy. I want those colors to feel harmonized instead of clashing against each other. If I walk into a house and I see one room that's red, one room that's yellow, one room that's green, I'm sorry, but I'm out. It's not going to work for us. If you don't know where to start, I've done a previous video on the 60-30-10 rule. That's going to give you a breakdown of the different levels of a space and the the amount of color that's used. 60 is going to be your majority of items, whether it's your floors or your walls. 30% is going to be larger accents like your sofa, rug, and drapery, and 10% is going to be your accents. If you have those three perfectly balanced, you have the perfect winning combination for colors. While paint has always been the foundation, lighting is always going to dictate the actual color of that space. Whether you're using natural or artificial lighting, you need to understand the color temperature of how that reacts to the color and how it changes in your space as well. And as always, I'm going to give you the budget recommendations, the average recommendations, and that extra luxury level if you want to spend a little bit more to elevate your space. Your budget friendly is going to be Behr or Claire paints. These are really accessible and you can get them at any hardware store. Do keep in mind that I always recommend spending a little bit more on paint because the better the quality means less actual layers that you have to have for your applications because they usually have a built-in primer. These cheaper brands usually do not. Your mid-range is going to be Benjamin Moore or Sherwin-Williams, depending on the quality. I know I have spoken many times before about Sherwin-Williams and how I don't recommend it because their colors are very different from the actual samples you will get. Benjamin Moore is one of the only few color samples that like 99.9% match the actual color sample that you're looking for. So if you have any questions about that, that's your easiest go-to. Just avoid Sherwin-Williams, even though it is that mid-tier brand. So your designer level paints are going to put you in the category of Tone Stir and Faro and Ball. These are your top tier paint level recommendations. Yes, they are more expensive, but they are so worth it. The colors are so true to the samples, but also when you're actually putting them on, you don't have to wait for that color to dry to get that exact color you're looking for. That color sample match of what you got on store is going to be exactly what you get for the application in your home. Another little tip, remember the more luxury and high-end the paint is, means less bleeding, less prep time, and less drying time when it comes to your application. So you can paint an entire room in a day instead of doing multiple layers in a day, waiting for it to dry to not see that existing color behind. That's why I always recommend a higher quality paint. And if you aren't using a higher quality paint and you do need to get one of those more affordable ones, by all means, get a primer, and do not get a built-in primer, get a separate one so it blocks off the actual color and the undertone of that existing color that you're painting. Color is all about the atmosphere that you want to create. So I want you to think of a feeling when you're picking out a color, not just the sake of picking out a color to paint your space based on the undertone or an accent that you want. And you should also think about the synergy between the finishes as well as the color. So like I said, the undertone is extremely important when it comes to pairing here. And lastly, lighting is always going to dramatically change the way the color looks in your space. Check the color bulb temperature of every light in your home. I always recommend between 2700 Kelvin rating and 3000 Kelvin rating. This is going to give you the truest form finish of the color in the evening that pulls warmer than cooler. So here's a little bit of a takeaway. Remember, color equals energy. Energy is really important for your home. You want to be comfortable, you want to be cozy, and you want to feel like you actually belong. If you have a color with a high energy in your space, it's going to make you feel less welcome and not want to spend more time in that room. Blues and greens are going to be your safest bet because that's going to be the most calming. Neutrals are going to be your safest bet if you're afraid of colors and you still want to introduce those earthy or those desert tones. Remember that the color should be aligned with not only the function, but as I mentioned before, the atmosphere of the room and how you're actually using it. Now, a question I have for all of you is, what is your favorite color for a room? Not your favorite color in general, because that is a different energy level compared to what you're actually using in your space. I always like seeing who is the winning culprit, whether it's neutrals, whether it's blues and greens, or whether it's a high energy finish, or you're dark and moody. But I know if you're following me, it's probably dark and moody, so let me know in the comments. That's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like this video and make sure that you're subscribed. You can also follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Mr. Phoenix Gray for all my daily tips and tricks. And if you're ever second guessing yourself, just ask, what would Design Daddy do?